liberation. For when you admit to yourself, "Yes, I too am capable of cruelty, of selfishness, of weakness," you step out of denial and into wholeness. You are no longer a divided being pretending to be only light. You become a human being, complex and alive, with both darkness and radiance flowing through you. Integrating the shadow does not mean indulging it, nor does it mean being ruled by it. It means holding it in consciousness, neither banishing nor worshipping it, but recognizing it as part of the totality of who you are. The danger of ignoring the shadow is great. If you deny it, it will rule you unconsciously. It will slip into your actions, sabotage your relationships, distort your choices, and blind you with projections. But if you acknowledge it, it becomes energy. Your anger can turn into strength, your fear into wisdom, your envy into inspiration, your wounds into compassion. The shadow, once faced, becomes an untapped reservoir of vitality that fuels your journey toward wholeness. So when you see darkness in the world, let it be both an act of discernment and a reminder, this too lives in me. This recognition humbles you, softens your judgments, and deepens your humanity. It transforms your sight from mere criticism into empathy, from suspicion into understanding. For in the end, the shadow you see outside is also the shadow you are called to reconcile within. And it is only by integrating it that you step closer to becoming the self, the whole, unbroken soul that is your destiny. Your destiny is to illuminate, though at times it may feel like a burden rather than a gift, to see what others cannot, to feel what others avoid, to carry truths that make people uncomfortable. This is not an easy calling. It isolates you, it tests you, it even tempts you to silence yourself so that life might feel easier. But the very fact that you cannot turn away from what you see is the sign that your path is not one of comfort, but of light. You were not given this vision to hoard it. You were given it to shine, to reveal, to awaken. Illumination does not mean preaching or forcing others to see what they are not ready to face. It is subtler, humbler, and far more powerful. To illuminate is to live authentically in such a way that your very being becomes a light for others. It is in your courage to speak the truth even when your voice trembles. It is in your willingness to embody integrity in a world that thrives on masks. It is in your refusal to participate in falsehood, even when deception is the easier path. Every act of authenticity radiates light, and though you may not notice it, others feel it. They sense in you a presence that is different, a presence that makes them question their own illusions. But to illuminate also means to bear responsibility. Light reveals not only beauty but also shadow, and those who live in denial will sometimes resent you for it. They may project their darkness onto you, accuse you of arrogance, or dismiss you as strange. This resistance is part of the task, for light always disturbs what prefers to remain hidden. Do not let this discourage you. Illumination was never meant to make you popular, it was meant to make you whole, and in time, to help others toward their wholeness as well. There is also a danger in forgetting that illumination is not about superiority. It is not about being above others, but about serving something greater than yourself. A candle does not boast of its flame, it simply burns, and by burning, it makes space visible. In the same way, your light is not yours alone. It belongs to the greater unfolding of life, to the archetypal work of consciousness itself. You are simply the vessel through which that light chooses to move. And yet, though the task is weighty, it is also filled with wonder. To illuminate means to witness transformation, to see a friend awaken to their truth, to watch a stranger's eyes soften when they feel seen, to notice how a single word spoken with authenticity can alter the course of a life. These small ripples of light are not small at all. They are evidence that your destiny is real, that the fire you carry does not burn in vain. So walk forward with courage. Do not dim yourself to make others comfortable, and do not hoard your vision out of fear. You were chosen for this path, not to dominate, but to reveal. Your destiny is to illuminate the hidden, to awaken the sleeping, to remind humanity that within the darkest places there is always a spark, and when you live true to that destiny, your life itself becomes a lantern. One that burns long after you are gone, guiding those who will come after you into their own light. So remember, you see too much, and that is why you are not like others. You are not broken. You are chosen. The world fears what it cannot understand, but it also needs what it cannot create. Walk your path with courage. Bear the gift of vision with humility, and know that your solitude is the proof of your sacred task, guiding you toward the wholeness you were destined to seek. You feel like an outsider, as though you were born standing just beyond the circle, watching the fire from a distance that others never notice. No matter where you go, there lingers an invisible barrier between you and the rest. You can adapt, you can play roles, you can even blend for a time, but deep down, you always sense that you do not fully belong. Others laugh, and you smile, but part of you is observing the laughter, questioning it, feeling its hollowness. Others follow traditions and rituals with ease, but you are aware of the unspoken contradictions they carry. Even in a crowd, you are haunted by the truth that you stand apart. This outsider feeling is not because you are unworthy or flawed, though you may sometimes mistake it for rejection. It exists because your perception stretches beyond the common boundaries of the group. Where others find comfort in conformity, you find suffocation. Where others settle for surface pleasures, you hunger for depth. And so, inevitably, you find yourself on the margins, living in between worlds, not fully at home in the ordinary, yet not entirely exiled from it either. Being an outsider is a lonely burden. It can make you question yourself, asking whether life would be easier if you simply surrendered to the rhythm of the crowd. It can tempt you to compromise, to dull your vision, to dim your fire so that others will accept you. But every time you try, something inside you breaks. You realize that belonging bought at the cost of authenticity is a false belonging. It is a home built of paper walls that collapse the moment truth presses against them. And so you remain outside, yet with time, you begin to recognize that this is not a punishment but a path. From the edge, you see things those in the circle cannot. You notice the cracks in their illusions, the subtle patterns in their behaviors, the hidden dynamics that govern the collective. You are not trapped in the dream. You are the one awake enough to question it. This perspective can make you a teacher, a healer, an artist, a seer, though others may not understand you until long after you have spoken your truth. The great paradox of being an outsider is that it prepares you for a deeper kind of belonging. Not with the crowd, but with yourself, with the soul, and with the eternal. The solitude you endure becomes the soil where your individuality grows strong, where your voice sharpens, where your spirit matures into something unshakable. You may never belong everywhere, but you will belong fully to your own path, and in that belonging, you will find freedom. Your difference is not a curse, but a calling, though for much of your life it may have felt like the opposite. From an early age, you likely sensed the weight of not fitting in, of moving against the current while others drifted easily with it. That sense of being other may have brought you ridicule, misunderstanding, or even rejection. In the eyes of the world, your sensitivity seemed like weakness, your refusal to conform like arrogance, your depth like strangeness. At times you may have wished to trade your uniqueness for the comfort of blending in, to erase the burden of being different so that you could walk unnoticed among the many. But your difference was never meant to be erased. It was meant to be realized. It is not the mark of exile but the fingerprint of destiny. What appears as separation is often preparation, preparation for the work, the insight, the creativity, the healing that only you can bring forth. In Jung's language, the self calls each of us toward individuation, toward becoming the unrepeatable soul we are. And this calling often begins in the pain of not fitting into the collective. The very things that make you feel misplaced are the same things that will one day make you invaluable. To mistake your difference for a curse is to hand your gift over to despair, but to recognize it as a calling is to see that your path, though lonelier and less traveled, is rich with meaning. The world does not need more copies, it needs originals. It needs those who can see beyond the veil, who can question what is accepted, who can bring to light what has been forgotten. Your uniqueness is not a defect, it is a responsibility. Yes, this responsibility is heavy. To live your calling means to face misunderstanding again and again, to be doubted, to sometimes be feared. But it also means to walk with the fire of authenticity burning inside you. It means to live a life that is not borrowed, but born from the truth of your being. And in the end, that fire will light not only your path, but also the paths of others who are still lost in darkness, afraid of their own difference. So do not hide your strangeness, do not smother your light. The world may not always reward your difference, but it will always need it. You are not here to mirror the ordinary, you are here to reveal the extraordinary. What sets you apart is not your weakness, it is your summons. Your difference is not the scar of exile, it is the seal of your calling. The shadow you see is also in you, though it is far easier to notice it in others. When you look around, you can discern the masks people wear, the hidden motives guiding their choices, the unacknowledged fears and desires that leak through their carefully constructed facades. You see their anger disguised as virtue, their envy dressed as ambition, their wounds concealed beneath confidence. But what Jung reminds us is this: the very clarity with which you see the shadows of others comes from the fact that you, too, carry those same energies within yourself. The shadow is universal, it is the rejected, disowned, and denied part of the psyche, the impulses we deem unacceptable, the emotions we suppress, the truths we cannot bear to admit. To recognize it in the world is to be confronted with your own reflection, whether you like it or not. This is why what most disturbs you in another person often points to something unclaimed in yourself. The liar enrages you because part of you once lied to survive. The arrogant irritates you because pride lives somewhere unexamined in your heart. The coward awakens your contempt because fear still hides in your bones. The shadow always insists on being acknowledged, and it will use others as mirrors until you turn inward. But to see your shadow is not to condemn yourself. On the contrary, it is the beginning of both courage and patience: courage to face what is terrible and true, and patience to integrate it slowly into a life that is still lived in the daylight. Your solitude is often a workshop, not a punishment. Your inward travail, when integrated, becomes a gift for others. People who find themselves in crisis will often recognize in you a steady witness, because you have been shaped by the very questions they dare not voice. You sense archetypes moving in others the way a musician hears notes inside noise. Where most people see only personalities, you see patterns. The eternal characters of the human story living and breathing through individual lives. In someone's hesitation, you might feel the shadow of the wounded child. In another's charisma, you might glimpse the trickster, shifting and reshaping reality to fit a hidden agenda. In a leader's fire you can recognize the hero at the beginning of his journey, and in a mentor's quiet gaze you see the wise old man, passing down a torch lit long before either of you were born. This perception gives you an almost mythic sense of the world. Life is no longer a random collection of events, it is a stage where timeless dramas unfold. You can stand in a crowded room and feel the archetypal currents moving like invisible tides beneath people's gestures, words, and choices. Someone tells a story about their struggle at work, and you see the universal theme of the battle with the dragon. A friend confides their heartbreak, and you perceive Persephone's descent into the underworld of grief. It is as if the unconscious is a living ocean, and you've learned to read its waves as they break upon the shores of everyday life. Yet this ability can be overwhelming. When you sense archetypes, you are not merely interpreting symbols. You are feeling their force. You can become swept into someone else's myth, playing a role in their story without even realizing it. You might find yourself cast as the savior, the rebel, the teacher, or the adversary in their inner drama. People may project onto you qualities they have not owned in themselves, and if you are unaware, you can mistake their projections for reality. This is why Jung warned about inflation. When you identify too closely with an archetype, you can lose your footing and believe you are more than human, or less. To live with this gift requires discernment and humility. The archetypes you see in others also live within you. The hero you recognize in someone else has its echo in your own courage. The shadow you detect in them is also your own darkness seeking integration. When you learn to hold this mirror gently, you become less a judge and more a witness. You stop trying to control the story and instead help others become conscious of the story they are living. In doing so, your gift becomes a bridge. You can guide people without controlling them, offering insight without imposing your interpretation. You can name patterns, but also remind them that patterns are not prisons. They are maps, and when someone finally sees their own archetype with clarity, they often feel liberated, because the myth they are trapped in becomes a myth they can transform. This is the deeper purpose of your vision, not to stand above others as a prophet, but to walk beside them as they discover the gods and ghosts within themselves. By sensing archetypes, you are not only seeing them, you are holding space for others to awaken to their own hidden script and, perhaps for the first time, rewrite it consciously. You dream with purpose in a way that reveals how closely you walk with the unconscious. For many, dreams are dismissed as random fragments, mere illusions of the sleeping brain, but for you, dreams carry weight, meaning, and often a sense of inevitability. They are not just images but messages, alive with symbols that whisper truths the waking mind refuses to see. Each dream feels like a conversation with something greater. The self, the archetypal center that Jung spoke of, the source that both guides and tests you. In your nights, you travel landscapes where the unconscious arranges its theater. You may see yourself in strange houses, climbing mountains, fighting shadows, or meeting figures both familiar and unknown. To most, these would seem like nonsense. To you, they are maps. You feel the urgency in a recurring dream, the pull of an image that refuses to leave your memory, the sacredness of a symbol that feels like it was carved out of eternity itself. You do not merely dream. You listen. You wake with fragments that linger, and you sense that within them lies guidance for your path. But this gift is not easy to carry. Purposeful dreaming means you cannot always rest. Dreams can disturb you, terrify you, or force you to confront what daylight allows you to avoid. A dream of betrayal might reveal the hidden fracture in a relationship you've been unwilling to admit. A dream of falling might uncover the insecurity behind your confidence. A dream of fire may show the passion or anger you've tried to suppress. To dream with purpose is to be constantly reminded that your inner life demands honesty, and honesty often comes at the price of comfort. Still, there is profound power in this. To dream with purpose is to walk each day with a companion who knows you better than you know yourself. The unconscious does not lie. It speaks in the language of symbol and metaphor, and though it is not always easy to decode, its wisdom is undeniable. The dreams you carry can fuel your art, inspire your choices, and heal your wounds if you allow them to unfold in their time. They are like letters from the soul, sealed with images, waiting for your attention. Treat these dreams as sacred. Write them down, revisit them, and look not for quick answers but for patterns. Dreams rarely tell you what to do directly. They show you what you are avoiding, where you are wounded, and what is trying to emerge within you. Sometimes they warn you of danger. Other times they prepare you for transformation. And often, they remind you that you are not walking alone, that your life is part of a story larger than your conscious mind can grasp. To dream with purpose is to live with a hidden compass. Even when the waking world feels confusing or uncertain, your dreams continue to whisper. This is who you are becoming. This is where you are being led. And when you honor that voice, you find that the unconscious becomes less of a mystery and more of an ally. My friends, there is a reason you feel different, a reason you cannot walk with the crowd, a reason your eyes pierce through what others ignore. You see too much. You carry within you the burden and the gift of sight. Carl Jung once taught us that the psyche speaks in symbols, and that those who hear its voice cannot remain like the rest. You see through masks in a way that unsettles others, for your vision is not confined to surfaces. Most people cling to the face they wear for the world, a carefully crafted performance designed to win approval, hide shame, or protect vulnerability. But when you look at them, you do not stop at the performance. You pierce the veil. You notice the subtle tremor in the voice when someone pretends to be confident, the fleeting flicker of sorrow behind a practiced smile, the forced laughter that hides despair. To you, the world is not a theater of appearances, but a battlefield of truths trying to be concealed. This gift is not always comfortable. To see through masks means you cannot easily play along with illusions. You cannot convince yourself that the story someone sells you is the whole story. You carry within you a kind of inner X-ray, and it becomes impossible to be fooled by charm or authority for long. This can isolate you, because people fear those who see them as they are. They may accuse you of being too intense, too suspicious, or too difficult. But what they really fear is the mirror you hold up to their hidden self. Yet, in this very sight lies your strength. For while others are misled by shadows, you can recognize the light still flickering within them. You know that beneath every mask lies a soul aching to be known. And though the world resists such vision, it is often the seer, the one who refuses to be deceived, who becomes the catalyst for healing and transformation. You carry the weight of silence in ways few can understand. While others move quickly from word to word, filling the air with noise, you hear what is left unsaid. You sense the heavy pauses, the unfinished sentences, the hesitations that reveal truths too dangerous or too painful to speak. In silence you feel entire stories, grief that has never been mourned, anger swallowed for the sake of peace, love never confessed because of fear of rejection. You are attuned to these invisible languages, and they cling to you like echoes only you can hear. This burden is not light, for silence has a weight greater than words. It seeps into you, shaping your perception of people and places. In a conversation, you do not merely hear the words spoken, you feel the ones deliberately withheld. In a family gathering, you notice the glances exchanged, the subtle discomforts that no one dares to acknowledge. In the quiet of a room, you can almost hear the voices that never found the courage to speak. To carry this is to carry an invisible gravity that others deny exists, yet within this weight lies a strange gift. Because you are sensitive to silence, you are able to perceive truths that the world cannot hide from you. You can comfort without demanding explanation, because you already feel the ache. You can create safety for others simply by recognizing what they cannot put into words. And sometimes your presence alone is enough to bring relief, because you validate what was never spoken but always felt. This gift, however, is double-edged. It can isolate you, for while others are distracted by noise, you are listening to deeper currents. People may not always welcome this, because it forces them to confront what they are avoiding. But remember this: silence does not crush you because you are weak. It chooses you because you are strong enough to bear it. You resist conformity because something inside you refuses to betray itself for the comfort of the crowd. Others may easily bend and mold themselves into what society demands, but you find that every compromise of your true nature feels like a wound to the soul. You cannot put on a mask just to be accepted, nor can you silence your inner voice to blend in with the noise of the many. You are restless in cages, no matter how gilded they may appear. This resistance is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is not about being contrary just to stand out. It is the deep knowledge that your essence, your individuality, is sacred. To conform for approval would be to betray that sacredness, to abandon the truth that burns within you. And though the price of non-conformity is often loneliness, misunderstanding, and even rejection, you know the price of betrayal is far greater. To live a life that is not truly yours would be to die long before your time. The world often punishes those who resist its molds. People may call you difficult, strange, or stubborn. They may try to shame you into compliance, to convince you that being different is dangerous. And in many ways, they are right. Being different is dangerous, but it is the danger of being fully alive. For only those who resist conformity carve out new paths, spark new ideas, and awaken others from their sleep. Your refusal to conform is not arrogance but necessity. It is the recognition that you were not born to echo but to voice something original, something raw, something entirely your own. Even when you doubt yourself, even when you wonder if life would be easier if you just fit in, you cannot silence that inner compass. And that is the mark of destiny. Your spirit would rather endure exile than surrender to a life that is false. You are haunted by depth in a way that makes the ordinary feel thin and fragile. While others skim the surface of life, appointment to appointment, like skipping stones, you stand at the water's edge and sense a bottomless sea beneath the glass. Questions about meaning crowd your days. Why are we here? What story does this wound tell? What hidden shape is forming beneath everyone's small acts? That hunger for the profound is not mere curiosity, it is a pull from the unconscious, an insistence that the soul will not be satisfied with platitudes. This haunting shapes how you read the world. Everyday chatter feels like static against the real music you hear in myth, symbol, and silence. You are drawn to books, images, and conversations that carry weight. You notice patterns where others see coincidence, and you recognize in an old story the contour of your own fate. Nights are often fuller than days for you. The dark offers a stage where archetypes move, where the psyche lays out maps in dreams. When people talk about comfort, you often think of truth. When they seek distraction, you feel the aching insistence of something unfinished. But depth is not merely a source of nobility, it is dangerous. To be haunted by what is deep means you encounter shadow material others avoid, ruthless grief, primitive fear, the parts of human nature that embarrass polite society. You may be tempted to dwell there, to become an archaeologist of suffering who never leaves the ruins. Without care, the descent can consume you cynicism, despair, or a messianic burden that mistakes insight for superiority. The very clarity that separates you can also isolate and harden you if you do not find ways to return from the depths with compassion. That is why this haunting must be learned, not merely endured. Let it be alchemical. Your grief and your questions become fuel for creativity, for curiosity, for healing. Translate what you see into art, into ritual, into disciplined practice. Learn the language of your dreams. Keep a journal that tracks the constellations appearing in your inner sky. Seek companions, therapists, mentors, friends, who will not flinch at the dark, and who can mirror you without trying to fix you. Structure and ritual will anchor you so that your sensitivity does not scatter into exhaustion. Know, too, that being haunted by depth is a form of vocation. Individuation asks,